Bonjour et bienvenue out de chez du Crunch Mundial de Rugby. This is the second round of the Rugby World Crunch with Coach Time. Let's get ready to rumble. A second round filled with jaw-dropping performances, especially from the Tier 2 nations, namely Portugal, Uruguay and Chile. They may have not won the games, but they certainly won the respect from the rugby community. Which makes me think, should they be more exposed to better opposition, considering how Japan came up the ranks? An injury to an in-form Malcolm Marx denting the bomb squad, as well as Handre Pollard being recalled to the World Cup squad. What does that mean for Mani Libok? Fiji quickly getting over their first round heartbreak loss to Wales and beating the Wallabies for the first time since 1954. Problems for Eddie Jones, mate. Yes, the Oaks, please man, if any of you picked up Lima Sopowanga's kicking tee, please bring it back to him. He's had it since he was 14 years old. Just like. Anyway, this is what the fans had to say before the second round. How's guys, Coach Timmy right here with the General Sales Manager of RSA Web, Cape Town, Sea Point. Quick prediction. So it's the round 2 of the Rugby World Cup, or rather the Rugby World Crunch. Quick games. Australia up against Fiji. Who's taking that?
Fiji's got it 3 points.
Ooh, after what they did against Wales, do you think they might just come back from that loss?
Definitely. It's not as Fiji's that good. I said Australia's that bad.
Oh, girl, bold man. Takes a lot of guts for that. Now, last one quickly. England or Japan?
England all the way.
How's guys, Coach Timmy? I'm right here with the great man, Mike himself, the man that aged backwards. Just some quick predictions for round 2 for tonight. France and Uruguay. Who's taking that?
France, obviously.
And then we have a Samoa up against Chile. Who's taking that?
Samoa, definitely.
The Springboks and Romania. Who's taking that?
Do you even have to ask?
France versus Uruguay. The hosts fielded their second string side up against a very passionate Uruguayan team looking to set the mark in the grand stage of them all. The hosts will be very disappointed for not being able to secure a bonus point in that game. But how can they? Not only were they playing against a highly spirited team, but the French depth was exposed, including their maturity. Let's have a look. Les Bleus failed to claim a bonus point and needed a 73rd minute try from youngster Louis Biel-Biari to make sure of a second victory in the tournament. They lost 4 of their 14 scrums, with Golthy changing 5 of his pack with 30 minutes to play in hopes of improving matters. With 2 wins from 2, they are in line to reach the quarterfinals despite failing to claim a bonus point against Uruguay, ranked 17th in the world, whom have played a leading rugby nation just once, Italy, since the last World Cup when they stunned Fiji. Eddie Jones finds himself back on the hot seat after recording a shock loss against the Island Boys, Fiji. From a rather controversial omission of experienced and well-seasoned World Cup campaigners in Quade Cooper and Michael Hooper to winning his first game after 5 attempts against Minnows, Georgia in the first round of the Rugby World Cup. Well, he's back on the headlines after the Wallabies lost to Fiji for the first time since 1954. Fiji kept their quarterfinal hopes alive with a thrilling 22-15 victory over Australia on Sunday. Their first success against the Wallabies in 69 years. Man of the match Joshua Tuisova scored a second half try, and scrum half Simeone Kuruvoli contributed 15 points with the boot as the Flying Fijians bounced back from their narrow loss to Wales. Australia, who beat Georgia last week, will now face their own must-win game against Wales this weekend as they find themselves in an unfamiliar position very early in this Rugby World Cup. Head coach Eddie Jones said he had no regrets after his young team submitted to the Island Boys, Fiji. Eddie Jones backed his young flower half Carter Gordon to come good despite hauling him off after a poor showing from the youngster as he was unable to get his side ticking from the playmaking role. Eddie Jones caused quite a stir before the tournament by selecting Carter Gordon as his only specialist flower half, leaving out the experienced pair of Quade Cooper and Bernard Foley. Well, you sleep on the bed you made, mate. Ireland versus Tonga was always going to be one-sided given the current form of both teams as well as the hierarchy in the World Rugby rankings, but one would have hoped for a better showing from the Tongans. Johnny Sexton became Ireland's record points scorer as he scored 16 in their 59-16 win over Tonga last weekend. The 38-year-old moved to 1,090 points, 7 more than the previous holder, Ronan O'Gara, setting in style with the try he converted in the first half. The Tongans' natural ball handling skills were nullified by their lack of discipline and poor lineouts. It was the Johnny show as Gary Ringrose found space and set up his captain to score under the post. However, the Tongan spirit was far from broken as they came storming back and they exerted so much pressure that the Irish defence cracked first. The Irish fans took the show over, belting out the fields of Athenry as the clock wound down until hooker Rob Herring interrupted their singing with the final try, which Byrne converted. The Irish deserve to be called the favourites in this tournament. They've been sublime in the opening 2 pool fixtures, racking up a whopping 20 tries. They'll have great confidence leading up to this weekend's crucial encounter against the only team yet to concede a try in this tournament, the Springboks. After losing a player of Malcolm Marx's calibre, the Springboks do not seem too perturbed. Well, at least they're not showing it. They are still grinding out with their system and trusting the quality in their depth. However, on a more positive, World Cup winning Springbok fly-off, Handre Pollard joins the squad back from injury, replacing Marx. I hope he can throw 6-ball, hey, Polly. While depth is so crucial at the Rugby World Cup, let's take a look at how the men in green and gold fared against Romania. Yes, like every opposition that says whatever here, demolish. The comprehensive 76-0 scoreline naturally suggesting a mismatch in playing resources indeed attested to that as a much changed, somewhat experimental combination dealt with the task at hand as they should have. In the process, avoiding any disrespect to their opponents and themselves. Simply too good from the Boks, who ran away with 12 tries against an outclassed Romanian outfit, with Kobus Renach and Makazola Mapimpi stealing the show and the headlines, both bragging hat-tricks. The Boks got their bonus point within 12 minutes, and while there was a bit of a dip just before half-time when the floodgates opened, they returned to their clinical best in the second half. They destroyed Romania in the scrums and at the breakdowns, while the Bok backs ran riot every time the ball went wide.
On the switch, cantering and swerving, he is untouchable.
With Handre Pollard back in the mix, it's a good headache to have for the Bok management. But with Manie Libbok, he seems to have things under control at this stage. I bet he's not even looking at the control buttons. And this weekend, it's a possible match of the tournament up against world's #1 at the Irish side. So selection will be very important. Who stays behind from last week? Who sits out? Marco van Staden, having a stint at hooker, worked for the Boks as the scrums maintained the dominance with him in the middle, including some very impressive line-out throwing. Hey, boy, load shedding. Just like. Eben Etzebeth is expected to be back in the mix after a worrisome shoulder injury, just to add some grunt in the tight 5 against the #1 team in the world. This will be a blockbuster, just like. But this weekend is not just about the Springboks and the Irish team. Here's a look at what's happening this weekend in the Rugby World Cup 3rd round. This week on the 3rd round of the Rugby World Cup, the Azzurri are up against a valiant South American squadron, Uruguay, on Wednesday at 17:45. On Thursday, the hosts, France, look to strengthen their grip at the pinnacle of Pool A against Namibia, the home of the Vintage Draft, at 9 p.m. Friday, it's all to play for in Pool D, as Samoa prepare to do whatever it takes to reach the knockouts against Los Pumas at 17:45. Saturday frenzy with Georgia versus Portugal at 2 p.m. The biggest match of the 3rd round, the defending champions, the Springboks, go toe-to-toe with the best in the world, Ireland, at 9 p.m. Your Sunday service this weekend will be courtesy of Scotland versus Tonga at 17:45 p.m. A must-win for Australia as they face Wales. A loss here for the Wallabies means that they go home. Catch it live at 9 p.m. This is the Rugby World Crunch. That's the Rugby World Crunch second round with Coach Time. See you next week. Hipokele na hipokele habayaziyo habazange Bible habazange